At our number 10 spot, we have the Headless Nun. It all began during the mid-18th century struggle between the Acadians and the British. In an effort to fend off the British, a French fort was constructed at a cove located in a place known today as French Fort Cove in New Brunswick. Among the Acadians transported to this location was a nun known as Sister Mary. Sister Mary was born in France and requested of her superiors that she be sent to Canada to help the Acadians. She was deeply devoted to the care of the ill and despaired for their well-being. Sister Marie was in charge of a fund that was set up to assist the needs of the families, and it is said that she buried the money for safekeeping. One fateful night, while returning from assisting a very ill person, Sister Mary was attacked by an unknown person or persons. They demanded that she reveal the location of the buried money. Her unwillingness to cooperate with the attackers resulted in Sister Mary being beaten, and her head was severed from her body. The head was never found, hence the Headless Nun. Sister Marie's body was then returned to France, but her spirit remained here, unable to rest until her head was buried with her body. Then for years after this incident, late night visitors to the area have reported being approached by Sister Marie's spirit asking where her head is. Some say she asked them to help find her head, while others claim that she has found it and carries it in her arms, in which she just asks them to bury it with her body. If you're brave enough to visit the area, be sure to bring a friend, as it's said that you should never visit the Headless Nun alone. Number 9. The Baldoon Mystery. The Baldoon Mystery takes place in the Baldoon settlement near present-day Wallaceburg in southern Ontario. This is where a group of Scottish families settled but faced many difficulties due to the swampy land and disease that was roaming the area. Among the original settlers, there was the MacDonald family, who showed much struggle beginning in 1829. According to accounts, this first incident happened when poles from the roof structure of the barn began to topple towards the ground, sending these deadly wooden daggers flying and sticking out of the ground. No probable source for the incident was ever found, and the poles were installed in such a way that they couldn't easily come loose, leaving the possibility of an unseen force with ill intent. As the strange occurrences continued to plague the farm, unexplained sounds would be heard from the MacDonald family at all hours of the day and night. The family would often hear the sounds of footsteps throughout the house, but especially in the kitchen, which sounded like the rhythmic marching of many men preparing for war. But when the family went to investigate, the noises would abruptly stop, leaving no explanation for them. Another disturbing incident involved one of their children, a baby sitting in a wooden cradle, which suddenly started to rock violently from side to side, despite the efforts of 3 men there to stop it. And it didn't stop there. Rocks were thrown in the exterior of their home each and every single day, which would sometimes shatter windows. As well, fires would show up around the property as if someone was trying to burn down the place, but they would be so random that they didn't even look like it was intentional. They would attribute the hauntings to a witch who cursed the home and the land, and would later enlist the aid of a woman who told them to make a bullet out of silver and shoot a black feathered goose, which would ultimately end the curse. After doing just that, they no longer had any more disturbances, and we can say that the curse was finally lifted. Number 8. Oak Island. The Oak Island Mystery is a series of stories explaining about a buried treasure and unexplained objects that have been found on or near Oak Island in Nova Scotia. Theories about the artifacts present on the island range from pirate treasure to Shakespearean manuscripts to the Holy Grail or even the Ark of the Covenant. Various items have surfaced over the years that were found on the island, some of which have since been carbon dated and found to be hundreds of years old. However, no significant main treasure site has been found there. The site consists of digs by numerous individuals and groups of people, and the original shaft, known as the Money Pit, was dug by early explorers. A curse on the treasure is said to have originated more than a century ago, stating that 7 men will die in the search for the treasure before it is found, and so far there's been 6 deaths confirmed, with the most recent one coming from 2014. So we're really just waiting for the 7th one. Doesn't that sound terrible? Attempts to remove the water from the money pit have been unsuccessful, and theories about an elaborate drainage system from the ocean beaches to the pit have been proposed. However, a scientific study conducted by the Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution in 1995 concluded that the flooding was caused by a natural interaction between the island's freshwater lens and tidal pressures in the underlying geology, refuting the man-made tunnel theory. Regardless, Oak Island is a mystery that we may never be able to solve unless someone is willing to risk their life just so we can get that 7th death. Again, that sounds absolutely terrible. Number 7. Pitt Lake's Lost Gold Mine. Pitt Lake's Lost Gold Mine is a legendary lost mine said to be near Pitt Lake, British Columbia. The supposed wealth has held the imagination of people worldwide for more than a century. The story of Pitt Lake gold begins in 1858, the year of the Fraser Canyon Gold Rush, where a number of maps were published in San Francisco promoting the goldfields of British Columbia. The mysterious riches are known as the Slough Mitch's Lost Mine or the Lost Creek Mine. Ever Ever since the years of the Fraser Canyon gold mine, prospectors and adventurers have been looking for the mine, and gold rush rumors have evolved into legends, repeated and enriched over time. The mine was said to be located on the north side of Pitt Lake, where an Indian brought, quote, a good prospect of gold, which he states he found in a little stream on the north side of Pitt Lake, to New Westminster, creating great excitement in the city. Despite many expeditions to find the mine, it remains a legend with many different variations of the story. Some say that it was found by a Native American, while others say a white man named Walter Jackson, who before he died wrote a letter to a friend describing the location of the mine and the treasure, describing it as yellow with gold and millions practically at the surface. Even after a century of searching, the mine remains undiscovered, which just adds more to its allure and its overall mystique. In the hump of our list, we have the ghost ship of Northumberland Strait. The ghost ship of Northumberland Strait is a legend steeped in centuries of Canadian ghost lore. According to the legend, the ghost ship is a beautiful schooner with 3 or 4 masts, all adorned with pure white sails. This ship sails ablaze within the Northumberland Strait, which is a body of water that separates Prince Edward Island from Nova Scotia and New Brunswick. The legend dates back at least 200 years, and it is said that the ship appears before a northeast wind and is a forewarning of an extreme storm. Over the years, there have been numerous sightings of this ghost ship, with people describing the distinctive outlines of the ship's mast and phantom crew members climbing them before the vessel supposedly either completely burns, sinks, or just vanishes out of thin air. In 1900, a group of sailors boarded a small rowboat in Charlottetown Harbor and raced towards the phantom ship in order to rescue the crew, only to have the ship vanish. Then in January 2008, a 17-year-old claimed to have seen the legendary phantom ship in Tatamagouche Bay, describing it as a bright white and gold ship. While the legend of the ghost ship has captivated the imagination of many, some have offered natural explanations for the phenomenon. In 1905, a New Brunswick scientist proposed that the legend may have arisen due to the natural electrical phenomenon known as St. Elmo's fire that has been subject to the interpretation as the flaming rigging of a ship. Other explanations suggest that the illusion may have been created by a bank of fog, which is just reflecting moonlight. But really, what do you guys think about it? In the hump of our list, we have the La Chasse Galerie. La Chasse Galerie, also known as the Bewitched Canoe or the Flying Canoe, is a popular French-Canadian tale of lumberjacks from camps working around the river of Gatineau who make a deal with the devil. The tale has roots in the French legend about a rich nobleman named Galerie who loved to hunt so much that he refused to attend the Sunday Mass. As punishment, he was condemned to fly forever through the night skies, chased by galloping horses and howling wolves. When French settlers arrived in Canada, they swapped stories with the natives, and the tale of Galerie was combined with a First Nations legend about a flying canoe. The story goes that after a night of heavy drinking on New Year's Eve, a group of voyagers yearned to visit their sweethearts who were 100 leagues or 500 kilometers away. The only way to make such a long journey and be back in time for work the next morning is to run the Chasse Galerie, which means making a pact with the devil so that their canoe can travel through the air to make their destination quickly. However, the travelers must not mention God's name or touch the cross of any church steeple as they whisk by in the flying canoe, or else the devil will take their souls. The men promise not to touch another drop of rum and take their places in the canoe, which begins to rise off the ground. They start to paddle and soon pass over the frozen Gatineau River, many villages, and even the lights of Montreal. They eventually touch down near a house where New Year's Eve festivities are in full swing, and they finally spend time with their sweethearts and still manage to get back in the morning. Although this is a sweet idea, I don't know if I would make a deal with the devil in order to just get to a destination faster. Number 4, the legend of Rose La Tulip. The story of Rose La Tulip is a French-Canadian legend that has been passed down for centuries. This eerie tale tells the story of a young and carefree girl named Rose La Tulip who loved nothing more than just to dance. On the night of Mardi Gras, a mysterious stranger appeared at the La Tulip house and asked to dance with Rose. Without hesitation, Rose accepted the offer and danced with the stranger until the stroke of midnight. However, as the clock struck 12, the stranger revealed his true identity as the devil. According to some variations of the legend, the devil disappeared into the night, taking Rose with him to eternal damnation in hell. Others claim that the priest of the village intervened, saving Rose from the devil's grasp. Regardless of the outcome, the legend says that Rose would later enter a convent and die a few years after. This legend is one of the many examples in French-Canadian folklore of girls dancing with the devil. These stories have been used as a cautionary tale for young girls, warning them of the dangers of dancing with strangers, particularly during Lent or on Sundays. The legend of Rose La Tulip is a chilling reminder of the consequences of succumbing to temptation and the dangers that can lurk in the shadows, even on the happiest of occasions. Number 3, the Fairmont Banff Springs Hotel. The Fairmont Banff Springs Hotel has been supposedly haunted since 1888. One of the most famous ghosts seen at the hotel is the Ghost Bride, who is either seen on the main staircase or in the hotel's ballroom. The Ghost Bride's story goes that on her wedding day, something startled her so bad and caused her to slip and fall. Some say that her heel got caught in her dress, or that her dress just got caught in a candle's flame and went up and engulfed her. Whichever story is true or not, what is known is that she passed away on that very staircase. Ever since, hotel staff and visitors claim to have seen the veiled figure walking up and down the stairs every single day. And on the other hand, others claim seeing her in the ballroom dancing, since she has never had the chance to dance with her husband. Man, this has to be one of the worst wedding disasters ever. Number 2, the Old Finch Avenue Bridge. The Old Finch Avenue Bridge is a Bailey bridge in Toronto that dates back to late October 1954. Ever since it was built, residents in the town of Scarborough have claimed it to be the most haunted bridge in the country. The most common legend about the bridge involves the disembodied screams of a young girl. The story goes that as you walk over the bridge at night, you may be greeted by shrill screams from beyond. There are variations of the legend, each providing different suggestions about how you can prompt the noises. Some say you simply need to be passing over the bridge at the right time of night, just as the sky is darkest. Others suggest that you should go to the center of the bridge and start singing the song Happy Birthday. A few people have remarked that you should yell Happy Birthday Candy out into the darkness. However you choose to conjure up the potential spirit, the results are often the same, a high-pitched and blood-curdling shriek. But their experiences don't stop there. Pedestrians gathering up the strength to venture onto this bridge have heard footsteps, whispers, and strange noises. Some people have even reported feeling a cold, eerie presence while walking on this bridge, and this is why many people try to avoid this bridge at all costs to this day. Number 1, Mussy. The legend of Mussy and the mysterious creature said to reside in Muskrat Lake in Ontario has captivated locals and visitors for decades. Described as anything from a walrus to a three-eyed Loch Ness monster creature, the origins of the legend are said to date back to 1916, and some even claim that it was mentioned by Canadian pioneer Samuel de Champlain in the early 17th century. Mussy's name is a diminutive form of the name of its reported location, which is a large and deep lake near the village of Cobden. The lake is also home to another paranormal phenomenon, where local legends state that an Atomic Energy of Canada bus driver saw an extraterrestrial spacecraft landing on a spot atop a hill and leaving here. There is indeed a dark colored circular outline on this hill where grass does not grow, with no widely accepted cause. Residents have variously described Mussy's physical appearance as a walrus, a sturgeon, or another fish, or even a Loch Ness monster with 3 eyes with sharper teeth. Some claim that a single very old Mussy or a member of its species arrived in the area, then covered by the ocean about 10,000 years ago, and that glaciers and later solid land masses built around it, forming the lake and trapping the creature in it. Despite several attempts to find concrete evidence of this creature, including a search by author Michael Braley and friend Deanna Bean using sonar technology, scientists have surveyed the area and just found nothing. However, the definitive non-existence of a Mussy-like creature is difficult to establish because some of the trenches in Muskrat Lake extend over 600 meters. So that's just food for thought when you're there. Number 10, the Red Lady of Huntingdon College. The Red Lady of Huntingdon College is a legendary ghost that is sent to haunt the former Pratt Hall dormitory at the Huntingdon College in Montgomery, Alabama. According to Wyndham and historian Daniel Barefoot, there have actually been 2 ghosts referred to as the Red Lady. The first Red Lady was described as a woman in a scarlet dress and parasol, who walked wordlessly in the halls of the women's dormitory, bathed in a red glow, due to her father's will specifying she attends her mother's alma mater. Martha was shy and unhappy and struggled to make friends at the college, leading her to become increasingly aloof and bitter. Despite the efforts of the dormitory president to befriend her, Martha remained isolated, often wandering into the rooms of other students and casting a chill upon groups. Her behavior grew increasingly strange as she would visit dormitories during the darkest hours of the night, never speaking but only staring into space as if in a trance. One evening after Martha had not been seen for the day, her former roommate found her dead in her room. It is believed that she had taken her own life, but rumors circulated that her ghost continued to haunt Pratt Hall. Students reported seeing her walking up and down the halls, opening and closing doors, and staring into space. The Red Lady's ghostly encounters continued for many years, and now she's become a well-known legend at the college and the entire state. Number 9, Deceased Children's Playground. The Deceased Children's Playground in Huntsville, Alabama is a pretty intimidating name for a seemingly innocent-looking playground. According to local lore, many children who died during the 1918 Spanish flu pandemic in Huntsville were buried in Maple Hill Cemetery, which adjoins the playground. Some people believe that the spirits of these children come out to play in the playground after dark, which has led many to report of unexplained movements and ghostly sightings in the area. For those who don't know, the Spanish flu pandemic was a global disaster, killing an estimated 50 million people worldwide, including many in Huntsville, where the disease arrived on September 25, 1918. Within the 10 days, it had spread to the general population, and hospitals were filled with patients, leading to doctors working long shifts to try to ease their suffering. As a result, many families were quarantined in their homes, and to prevent the spread of the disease, parents told children to keep the windows closed. This resulted in the rhyme, "I had a bird, its name was Enza, I opened the window and influenza." Although there is no official count of the number of children who passed away in Huntsville during the pandemic or how many people were buried in Maple Hill, it is likely that hundreds perished, leading to this park being extremely haunted. Number 8, Hell's Gate Bridge. Hell's Gate Bridge in Oxford, Alabama is considered to be the most haunted bridge in the state. The bridge's name was inspired by the legend of a young couple whose car drove off the bridge and into the waters below in the 1950s. According to the legend, if you stop on the bridge and turn off your lights, a member of the couple will enter your car and leave a wet spot on the seats. This eerie story is why the bridge is considered to be very haunted. But it is not just a couple that haunts Hell's Gates Bridge. It is also said that if you stop on the bridge and look over your shoulder, the road behind you will resemble the fiery gates of hell. This frightening tale has led many visitors to the bridge seeking to experience the supernatural for themselves. Although the Oxford Paranormal Society conducted an investigation in 2007 and found no evidence of paranormal activity, there are still many locals who claim to have had a ghostly encounter at this bridge. Despite the bridge's reputation, local officials have closed it off to any sort of vehicles due to safety concerns, but visitors are able to still walk across it if they dare. While the old bridge is falling apart, it is an unforgettable experience to walk on it, even in the daylight. Whether or not the stories behind the haunted bridge in Alabama are true, the legend of Hell's Gate Bridge continues to live on and attract visitors from far and wide. If you are brave enough to walk across this historic bridge, you will be forever changed. Number 7, the Sloss Furnaces. Birmingham, Alabama was founded in 1871 with the aim of becoming a major center for America's industrial age, taking advantage of its rich deposits of iron ore, coal, and limestone. The city was nicknamed the Magic City, and one of its key attractions was the Sloss Furnaces, built by James Wither Sloss in 1881. The furnaces were dangerous and men worked 12-hour days facing danger at every single turn. Many workers died from accidents, including falling into molten steel or suffering from carbon monoxide poisoning. There's even a story of a worker who was dragged into gears during his lunch break. The furnaces were known for paranormal activity as well, with reports of screams, apparitions, and the presence of slag, which is a cruel foreman. On September 9, 1887, worker Richard Jowers fell into molten steel and was incinerated. It is rumored that his bones were removed, but his remains were lost completely. Today, Sloss Furnaces is a national landmark and still echoes with the sounds of his perilous past. It is possible that the workers who lost their lives at these furnaces still haunt the grounds, reminding the city of their sacrifice. Number 6, the Downey Booger. The legend of the Downey Booger dates back to the late 1800s in Winston County, Alabama. Known for its rugged men, whiskey, and Saturday night dances, Winston County was also infamous for the strange creature that had been sighted by John and Joe Downey while they were returning home from a dance. The creature, which had both human and animal-like features, had frightened the cousins' horses and caused them to run in the opposite direction. Later, a family returning from a church service and Jim Jackson, who was transporting moonshine to a mining town, also reported encounters with this creature. Jim Jackson fired twice at this creature, causing it to scream like a woman and limp on 3 feet. A posse formed to find this creature, but all they found were traces of blood leading from the sandbed to a distant cliff. The true identity of this creature still remains a mystery to this day, and its strange appearance and haunting screams continues to be retold among the residents of Winston County. In the hump of our list, we have the Alabama White Thing. The mystery of the Alabama White Thing has been the subject of much speculation and storytelling for nearly a century. Originating in the Triangle region between Morgan, Etowah, and Jefferson counties, this creature is described as being over 7 feet tall and covered in long white hair. It is known for its lightning fast speed and eerie screech that sounds like a woman's scream or a panther's roar. There has been numerous sightings of the White Thing in Happy Hollow, Walnut Grove, and Moody's Chapel. Some people believe it could be an albino Bigfoot or a large albino bear. Peter J. Gossett, a historian of Winston County, heard the story of the White Thing from his aunt, Fenata Martin Smith. She told him of a man named George Norris who had a close encounter with the creature in Enon Graveyard. According to Smith, Norris described the White Thing as having the appearance of a lion with a bushy, slick tail. He said it was looking at him when he woke up one morning to find it laying next to him, but it didn't seem to pose a threat. Number 4, the Drish House. The Drish House in Tuscaloosa, Alabama has a rich history that dates back to 1837. Built by Dr. John R. Drish, a physician and prominent home builder in the area, the 2-story Greek Revival style home was once part of a 450-acre plantation. Drish employed slave artisans for his plasterwork projects, and his success in the field led him to marrying a wealthy widow named Sarah Owen McKinney. But the Drish House is not just known for its rich history, but also for its notorious reputation as being one of the most haunted sites in Tuscaloosa. The spirits of the original occupants are said to still haunt the house, including Dr. Drish, Sarah Drish, and Catherine, which is the daughter of the Drish family. In 1969, author Catherine Tucker Wyndham published a book about 13 ghost stories in Alabama. And the second chapter, called Death Lights in the Tower, tells the story of a mysterious phantom fire that occurred on the Drish House Tower after the passing of Sarah Drish. Number 3, the Bear Creek Swamp. Bear Creek Swamp, located in Autauga County between Prattville and Autaugaville, has been a source of ghost stories for many years. A woman who is said to be searching for her missing child is said to roam the swamp at all hours, with some claiming that the baby drowned there and others saying that the children was kidnapped by indigenous people. According to the legend, if someone visits the swamp at midnight and chants, "I have your baby," 3 times, the woman will appear, kind of like Bloody Mary. Many people have reported sightings of apparitions that resemble indigenous people and early settlers, as well as phantom lights and cackling laughter in the area. The legend of Bear Creek Swamp becomes more intriguing in November 2014 when the Autauga County Sheriff's Office recovered 21 dolls that had been mysteriously stuck into the marshland. Although the Sheriff's Office never determined who placed the dolls there, officials just believed it to be a Halloween prank. But was it really? Number 2, the Tuskegee Syphilis Experiment. This experiment was designed to observe the effects of syphilis when untreated. It was conducted in 1932 by the U.S. Public Health Service with 600 African Americans recruited from Alabama. The men consisted of 399 with latent syphilis and 201 as a control group with no syphilis. They agreed to the study because they were promised free healthcare, which they never got, and were originally told that they were being treated for bad blood. These men were given only placebos such as aspirin and mineral supplements, rather than being treated with penicillin, which was the recommended treatment at the time. Many participants of the study died, went blind, or got driven to insanity, while others suffered other severe health complications due to the untreated syphilis. The story ended up arising back in 1972, and by that time, 28 more participants perished. 100 had passed away from related issues, 40 spouses were diagnosed with it, and the disease got even passed down to 19 of their children. Despite an apology from President Clinton in 1997, the damages had already been done. Number 1, Hugging Molly. The small town of Abbeville in Alabama is known for many things, but one of its most famous legends is that of Hugging Molly. According to the local folklore, Hugging Molly is a tall figure dressed in all black, including a wide-brimmed hat, who wanders the street of Abbeville at night looking for children to hug. Although the origin of the legend is unclear, there are several different theories as to who or what Hugging Molly really is. One theory is that Hugging Molly was a woman who lost her own child and as a result goes after the local children to make up for it. Another theory suggests that Hugging Molly was a professor at the Alabama Agricultural School and her intention was to keep the students safe by getting them off the streets at night. There's also others who believe that Hugging Molly was murdered in cold blood on the very streets she now haunts and is trying to fulfill something. Despite the frightening appearance of this haunting Molly, there has never been any reports of harm caused by her. In fact, she's almost a part of the community and town history, with local residents even being named after her. With so many different interpretations, it is really difficult to determine the truth behind the story of her. But one thing is for sure, on a cold, dark, and rainy night, Hugging Molly still roams the street of Abbeville, seeking out children to hug. Number 10, the Black Volga. The Black Volga is an urban legend that has captivated audiences for decades. The legend refers to a mysterious black or red GA721 or GA724 car that was allegedly used to abduct and murder people in the 1960s and 70s in countries like Poland, Romania, Hungary, Russia, Belarus, Ukraine, Greece, and Mongolia. The car is described as having white wheel rims, white curtains, or other white elements, which only adds to its eerie appearance. According to different versions of the legend, the car was driven by various nefarious characters. These included communist secret police, Russian mafia, and Satanists. And then there are some who say Satan himself drove it. The motives for the abductions and murders vary as well, with some versions stating that the victims were kidnapped and murdered for their blood, which was supposedly used as a cure for rich Westerners or Arabs suffering from leukemia. The legend of the Black Volga has become so ingrained in popular culture that it has spawned variations such as the car having horns instead of wing mirrors, the number 666 on the license plate, and even the driver asking for the time and killing the person who approaches the car to answer this question. But luckily, there's also an effective defense method for this. So they say whenever the driver of the Volga asks what time is it, you should just answer it's God's time. Then the car would just quickly vanish. Number 9, the Felixstowe Fire Demon. The Felixstowe Fire Demon sighting was an extraterrestrial sighting that took place in Felixstowe, England in 1965. The group that saw it consisted of the driver, 25-year-old Jeffrey Maskey, and his passengers, Mavis Fordyce and Michael Johnson. They were driving along an isolated tree-lined avenue when they decided to pull over to preserve gas. As they engaged in conversation, Johnson suddenly opened the car door and walked out into the murky night. Fordyce and Maskey exchanged perplexed glances as their companion vanished into the darkness, but simply assumed he had gone to use the bathroom in the woods. Just moments after Johnson disappeared, Fordyce and Maskey heard a strange high-pitched humming sound. Fordyce grew anxious as the disconcerting sound became louder, and Maskey leaned out the window to try and find the origin of the noise. It was then that he saw an oval-shaped orange object suspended in the sky above his car. Maskey estimated that the UFO was about 6 foot wide, and both he and Fordyce claimed that it was glowing so brightly that it glowed the surrounding countryside in an eerie orange glow. The following day, Johnson recovered his senses and told his friends and doctors of his harrowing encounter with an alien entity in the woods. He claimed that when he abruptly got out of the car the night before, he was compelled to do so by an unknown force, which insisted that he go into the woods. Johnson walked into the dark forest where he encountered a humanoid being with large sloping eyes that were glowing in the darkness. He also claimed that the creature was engulfed by an orange flame, and it was at that point that he just blacked out. Number 8, the Blood Countess. Dubbed the most prolific female murderer by Guinness World Records, Countess Elizabeth Bathory was infamous for her dark, gruesome truth. Born into a noble Hungarian family in 1560 or 1561, they don't really know the date, Bathory descended from multiple noble lineages and included the King of Poland and the Prince of Transylvania among her relatives. It is thought that her parents were both close relatives, and that this may have been the source of a number of health problems that she experienced as a child, such as severe epileptic seizures. After she got married at 15 years old with Ferenc Nadasti, rumors began to circulate about her atrocities. Between 1602 and 1604, the rumors about Bathory's crimes became impossible for the authorities to ignore. Lutheran minister Istvan Magyari made complaints about her both publicly and at the court in Vienna, but it took until 1610 for King Matthias II to assign 2 notaries, Andras Korestory and Moses Reiki, to collect evidence on the charges made against her. The evidence that was collected revealed that the girls as young as 10 were being abducted by Bathory, beaten severely, and mutilated before freezing or starving to death. Some girls were allegedly burned with hot tongs, and others had parts of their face bitten off. As a result, Bathory was arrested and imprisoned for life, where she died 4 years later. The true story of Bathory is a complex and disturbing tale of a woman who committed horrific crimes against innocent girls. And while the vampire and blood-bathing legends may make for a sensational story, the truth is terrifying on its own. Number 7, the Black Monk of Pontefract. The Black Monk of Pontefract is a legend that has been passed down through history, detailing a supposed poltergeist haunting that took place in the late 1960s and early 70s in a home in the town of Pontefract, England. The home belonged to a family by the name of Pritchard, who claimed to have experienced a series of terrifying and inexplicable disturbances from the moment they moved in. The disturbances began with small occurrences such as a gust of cold wind and a strange white powder falling from the air. However, as time went on, the disturbances became increasingly intense and more terrifying. Puddles of water began appearing on the kitchen floor, and even a plumber was unable to offer an explanation for this. The family reported hearing loud crashing sounds and seeing objects move or disappear, and they even claimed that a heavy chest of drawers began to sway on its own. The disturbances were so intense that at one point, the family was forced to flee the home and sleep at a neighbor's house out of fear alone. Even when they returned, the disturbances continued, with the family's daughter Diane being thrown from her bed and dragged up the stairs by an invisible force. The family even claimed that after they sprinkled holy water across the home, the poltergeist responded by painting upside down crosses on the living room walls and doors and destroying crucifixes wherever they were. The Pritchards also claimed that a black cloaked figure with a cowl over its head appeared over their bed, and they attributed this to the poltergeist, but it is not confirmed. Number 6, the Spring-Heeled Jack. Spring-Heeled Jack is a legendary figure from Victorian England who is said to be a fire-breathing devil man man who could jump unnaturally high. The legend of Spring-Heeled Jack first started to appear in 1837, where residents of a London neighborhood began to report bizarre attacks from a figure described as a ghost, imp, or devil in the shape of a large white bull. The figure mainly targeted women, ringing their doorbells, and when they answered, it would ravage their clothes with its claws. Other sightings have him simply ambushing people who were out walking. The figure was also described as wearing red shoes or armor, and despite the skepticism from the press, the legend of the Spring-Heeled Jack continued to grow. It grew so much that the Lord Mayor of London even addressed the growing number of stories, bringing up the theory that the attacks were perpetuated by a group of wealthy individuals. Some believe that it was a group of wealthy men dressing up and scaring people on a bet. However, the true nature of Spring-Heeled Jack still remains a mystery, and as of today, there is no evidence of what this person may have been. In the hump of our list, we have the Beast of Gévaudan. In the 1760s, a terrifying creature known as the Beast began killing nearly 300 people in a remote region of south-central France called the Gévaudan. The Beast was thought to be a huge animal, but its reputation grew to be much more sinister. Reports stated that it preferred attacking women and children, and that it would remove the victim's head and drink all of their blood, leaving nothing behind but a pile of bones. Illustrators had a field day representing the Beast, with many emphasizing its goriness and preference for found victims. The attacks in Gévaudan created widespread fear, to the point that King Louis intervened, offering a reward for its capture. Despite the efforts of hunters, a dragoon captain, and even professional wolf stalkers, the beast was not captured until September 1765 by Francois Antoine. And even then, the attacks continued. Supernatural explanations of the attack continued to circulate, with some believing it to be the work of werewolves, but most historians now agree that the Gévaudan beast was most likely a pack of large wolves. The legend of the beast still holds a certain level of creep factor, making it a truly terrifying urban legend from France. Number 4, the Caves of Death. I mean, the name says it all, but if you happen to be in Scotland and want to try something daring, then maybe go try out the Caves of Death. Archaeologists discovered this not too long ago and found that this was an ancient location used for human sacrifice, execution, and body disposal. So pretty much a good place all in all. Radiocarbon dating found masses of dismembered body parts, including children's head left on poles in front of the cave's entrance, which were left there 3,200 years ago. It's said that they did this because they treated this place as a shrine where they would leave those who passed away, wait for them to decompose, then collect the bones. Number 3, the Queen of Spades. Basically the Russian version of Bloody Mary. This supernatural being is said to grant wishes to anyone who suffers her, but at a price, of course. As the Joker once said, if you're good at something, never do it for free. To summon her, similar to Bloody Mary, you need to go in a dark room with a mirror and light a candle in front of it. Once you have that set up, you need to place a Queen of Hearts playing card right up against the mirror. You now need to draw a door with some stairs on the mirror. Now in the front of the mirror, you need to clear your mind and close your eyes and say Queen of Spades 3 times. While you're saying your name, visualize the queen opening the door and walking down the stairs from the lipstick drawing. This part is where many people report hearing evil laughter just before they encountered the Queen of Spades. Once she appears, you need to hold your candle and say your wish out loud. Once you're done, blow out your candle. Because if you don't, her spirit may come out through the window and stay in our world. Basically, chanting a name in a mirror doesn't have good implications in any culture. Number 2, the Chernobyl Black Bird. Just a few days before the infamous Chernobyl nuclear plant disaster, many workers at the plant reported seeing a large, dark, and mutated man with gigantic wings. This humanoid creature was given the name Black Bird of Chernobyl, and despite the fact that it had no head, it had piercing red eyes that would send chills to the spine of anyone caught looking. Before the nuclear disaster, workers claimed to have been plagued by terrifying dreams and many instances of bad luck. Fast forward to the day of the disaster, and now workers have reported seeing a large black bird-like creature with a 40-foot wingspan flying through the smoke of Chernobyl. Many people believe these creatures to be a bad omen, since they are shown around history to appear before tragic events. Now this creature is nowhere to be found in the area, which makes many wondering what was truly haunting them at this famous nuclear plant. Number 1, the London Fog. On December 4th, 1952, smog began to cover all of London. The smog was present for 5 whole days and ended up leading to the passing of at least 4,000 people. On a regular Tuesday afternoon, a high-pressure air mass stalled over Thames River Valley. Suddenly, cold air came in from the west side and the air in London became trapped. The problem worsened by the low temperatures, which caused people living there to burn extra coal in their surfaces to keep warm. The smoke, soot, and sulfur dioxide from the area's industries, along with the stuff from cars and consumer energy usage, caused heavy smog to smother the entire city. By the morning of December 5th, it was visible across hundreds of square miles. It became so thick and dense that by December 7th, there was no sunlight, and visibility was down to only 5 yards in many places. Eventually, all transportation came to a halt, but not before the smog caused several train accidents, including a collision between 2 trains near the London Bridge. However, that wasn't the worst thing. The worst effect of the smog was the respiratory distress it caused in us humans and animals, including difficulty breathing and many people vomiting. A high number of people in the area, numbering in the thousands, passed away in their sleep that weekend alone. Now, it's a little crazy to me that all this happened and so many people ended up losing their lives, but I guess you can't really control Mother Nature when it comes down to stuff like this. Number 10, the cursed Kleenex commercial. In 1986, Kleenex released a commercial in Japan that has sparked a series of disturbing urban legends. The ad featured a woman in white and an ogre-looking child sitting on a pile of hay and enjoying Kleenex tissues while the song It's a Fine Day by Jane and Barton played in the background. While almost instantly after the commercial was aired, TV stations and Kleenex corporate allegedly began receiving complaints about the ad, which many found very unsettling. Some people claim that the entire film crew met untimely deaths in freak accidents following this, while others said that the child in the commercial had passed away immediately after filming. There are also rumors that the actress Kaiku Matsuzaka had either passed away or been committed to a psychiatric hospital or even became pregnant with a demon baby following the commercial. Others claim that when the ad came on at night, the singer's voice in the commercial transformed from that of a young soprano to a raspy old woman's, and the ad became so unsettling to the public that Kleenex eventually pulled it and replaced it with a different one. However, after doing further research, Kaiku Matsuzaka, the girl in the video, is alive and well, and besides that, it's not that bad of an ad. Or at least I think that. At a number 9 spot, we have the Sony timer. The Sony timer, also known as a Sony kill switch, is a rumored feature that is said to exist in electronic devices produced by Sony. The feature was that Sony devices were equipped with a timer that causes the product to stop functioning after a predetermined period of time, forcing you to purchase a replacement. Considering the stuff we know about the Apple updates slowing your phone down, this is really not a surprise now. Anyways, the legend of the Sony timer originated in Japan in the 1980s and early 1990s, and despite the lack of concrete evidence to support the myth, a significant portion of the Japanese population believed in it. The legend remained confined in Japan until 2006, when a recall of over 4 million Dell laptops equipped with defective Sony lithium batteries rekindled the legend of the Sony timer. And despite Sony's efforts to contain the rumor, it eventually came to the knowledge of consumers outside of Japan and had a negative impact on the sales of Sony Vaio laptop computers. Then more recently in 2021, the legend resurfaced once again when an anti-cheat measure in the PlayStation Network had the potential to render games unplayable on certain PlayStation consoles. But much of this is still speculation, and such a thing is not confirmed whether or not it truly existed, but we really know that they try to make our devices bad, so they want us to buy a replacement. We all know that. At a number 8 spot, we have the Alice killings. The Alice killings remain one of the most mysterious and unsolved serial killings in Japanese history. From 1999 to 2005, 5 killings took place, each with a calling card left at the scene by the killer. More specifically, a playing card with the word Alice would be written on it on the victim's blood. The victims were diverse, ranging from a restaurant owner to a high school student to a college student to a nurse. However, they all shared the eerie and gruesome playing card left at the scene of their murders. The first victim, Sasaki Megumi, was a 29-year-old restaurant owner known for her strong personality and excellent cooking. She was last seen alive walking home from a party, and the next morning her body was found in the woods, torn apart and impaled on tree branches, with the Jack of Spades card found in her mouth. The second victim, Yamane Akio, was a singer whose body was found in a bar, his vocal cords ripped out and a gunshot wound to the head. The King of Diamonds card was found in his hands. The third victim, Kai Sakura, was a high school student whose body was found in a shallow grave, mutilated and with a crown sewn onto her head. The Queen of Clubs card was found on a stick marking the grave. The fourth victim, Hasegawa Hiroki, was a college student whose body was found with the Ace of Spades card. The fifth and final victim, Takahashi Ayumi, was a nurse whose body was found with the Joker card. After doing further research, fortunately this person never existed in Japan, but in reality there was a serial killer who was caught that was using playing cards, except it was in Spain, not Japan. They were caught in 2003 and sentenced to 142 years in prison, and not to worry, they do not have a pack of playing cards with them, nor will I think they will ever be allowed to play with cards ever again. Number 7, the Howling Inuwaki Tunnel. The legend of the Inuwaki Tunnel and the village has been a source of fascination in Japan for decades. Located in the remote mountains of the Fukuoka prefecture, the tunnel is said to be haunted by the ghosts of those who went missing inside of it, and is only accessible through an abandoned village called the Inuwaki village. According to the legend, all who enter the village are doomed to a violent death, and the Japanese constitution does not apply there. The legend of the Inuwaki Tunnel and village may have been inspired by a real-life murder that took place in the tunnel in 1988. According to the story, a group of teens kidnapped, robbed, and tortured a young man before burning him alive in the tunnel. The tunnel, being remote and rarely used by traffic, was a popular spot for gangs, and the brutal murder likely contributed to the creation of the legend in the first place. Today, the tunnel is considered one of the most haunted places in Japan, with large concrete bricks blocking its entrance, but that hasn't stopped adventurers from trying to enter it. Locals say that electronic devices and even their cars often break down when they're around this tunnel, and that others sometimes hear the sounds of barking dogs and ghostly screams emanating from deep inside of the tunnel. The legend has inspired numerous films and books and other sorts of media, including the 2020 film Howling Village from Ju-on creator Takashi Shimizu. Number 6. The Yaomaoba. Ever wanted to take a hike in the mountains of Japan? Well, just be on the lookout for the Yaomaoba, also known as the Mountain Witch, who supposedly resides in these elevated regions of the country. Yaomaoba is often depicted as an old woman with long unkempt hair and a wild experience who lives in the mountains and is associated with the spirit world. According to the stories, this creature is a benevolent figure who helps lost travelers find their way home, while in other stories, she is portrayed as a malevolent being who lures people into the mountains and causes them to go missing. Some locals claim that she was once a regular girl who ran into the mountains to escape false accusations. Here she grew angry and resentful and would eventually have cannibalistic tendencies along with practicing black magic. So on your next hike, don't be deceived by anyone you might come across, because the amount of encounters with this creature leads me to believe that she's really up there in the mountains of Japan. Number 5. Kagome Kagome. Kagome Kagome is a Japanese children's game, and in the game, a group of children joins hands and walks around in circles around a child who is chosen to be the Oni, or demon. The Oni sits in the center of the circle with their eyes covered, while the other children sing the Kagome Kagome song. When the song is over, the Oni has to guess the name of the person standing directly behind them. This game takes a sinister twist when a group of people found themselves caught in the game on a foggy suspension bridge. In this case, the group was split into 2 cars, with the first car carrying 3 people and the second car carrying 4 people. So when they reach the bridge, it is already getting dark and the fog is not helping. The first car comes to a halt and the couple gets out, joining hands. They then climb over the railing of the bridge and throw themselves off, much to the shock and horror of the other passengers. One of the other people in the car is found talking to themselves, repeatedly muttering the quote, "mustn't go." The couple is later found dead and is ruled to have both taken their lives. When they ask the remaining survivors of the first car what happened, they say that a girl wearing kimono suddenly appeared in front of their car, causing them to stop. This is when they said that their car was encircled by a group of children who then began saying Kagome Kagome. The children were enticing the passengers to join hands with them, and the couple eventually gave in, while the manager was protected by religiously repeating the phrase, "mustn't go." Number 4. The Red Room Curse. The Red Room Curse is a legend that has long circulated on the internet in Japan, with various versions of the story being told. At its core, the legend involves a mysterious pop-up ad that appears on a person's computer, announcing their impending death. According to the most common version of the legend, while browsing the internet, the victim will be presented with a pop-up featuring a black text on a red background that says, "Do you like blank?" When the victim tries to close the pop-up, it reappears with the text changed to "Do you like the red room?" and the screen turns red, displaying a list of names of the red room's victims. After seeing the pop-up, the victim will sense a mysterious presence behind them and then lose consciousness. They will later be found dead in their home, with the walls of the room in which they are discovered painted red with blood. The origins of the legend can be traced back to a Japanese interactive horror animation that was uploaded to GeoCities in the late 1990s. However, the legend gained notoriety in 2004 due to the Sasebo slashing, a murder case involving a young girl who was a fan of the animation and had the video bookmarked on her computer at the time of the murder. So there is some truth to this. But what do you guys think about the curse? Real or not? Number 3. The cursed poem Tamino's Hell. Published by Japanese poet Seiju Yasu, it is said that one of his poems named Tamino's Hell is cursed and could kill or haunt people if read loud. So just to not die, I'll be playing it safe and I'll just show you the poem rather than reading it. In 1974, Japanese filmmaker Terayama Tsuji directed a movie based on Tomino's Hell. Unfortunately, he ended up passing away in 1983. This is where people first believed that the movie was cursed, since the poem was used and read in the movie. As time went by, people began forgetting about the incident, but then in 2004, one Japanese writer published a book based on the poem, saying, quote, "If you by chance happen to read the poem out loud, after you will suffer from a terrible fate which cannot be escaped." It's said that even hearing someone saying the poem out loud can lead your life into disaster or even death. So let's read it out loud. I'm just kidding, everyone relax. Nowadays, this poem is feared internationally, but for those who remain skeptical, come on, give this one a read. Number 2, The Curse of the Colonel. This might be odd to hear, but apparently a baseball team in the Kansai region of Japan named the Hanshin Tigers are supposedly cursed by the ghost of Colonel Sanders. Yes, the founder of Kentucky Fried Chicken. According to legend, the curse was placed on the team because of the colonel's anger over the treatment of one of his storefront statues, which was thrown in the Dotonbori River by celebrating Hanshin fans after their team victory in the 1985 Japanese Championship, which was thrown in the Dotonbori River by celebrating Hanshin fans after their team's victory in the 1985 Japan Championship Series. The curse was said to explain the team's subsequent 18-year losing streak, and many people believe that the team would never win another Japanese series until the statue was recovered. The curse has also been compared to the curse of the Bambino, which is said to afflict the Boston Red Sox until they won the World Series in 2004. Despite the supposed curse, the Hanshin Tigers have appeared in the Japan Series 3 times since the statue has been thrown into the river, losing in 2003, losing in 2005, and losing in 2014. Whether or not the curse of the Colonel is real, it has become an enduring and fascinating part of the Japanese sports legends, and also the first time I've ever heard of the Kentucky Fried Chicken founder cursing something. Number 1, human sacrifice at the Meiuroka Castle. The Meiuroka Castle, also known as the Mist Castle, is a Hirayama-style Japanese castle located in the city of Sakai. It is considered to be one of the oldest castles in Japan and is said to be protected by a mist that appears whenever an enemy is nearby. According to the legend, the castle was built at the end of the Sengoku period in the 1500s with the use of human sacrifice known as hitobashira. The practice of hitobashira, or human pillars, was believed to appease deities and protect against natural and man-made disasters. For those who don't know, it is basically making humans into the stone pillars and the walls that make up a building. It was commonly used in the construction of large buildings such as castles, dams, and bridges. However, the story of Meiuroka's castle's hitobashira centers around a woman named Oshizu, who is a poor one-eyed mother of 2. When the construction of the castle was plagued by problems and the walls kept collapsing, a vassal suggested the use of human sacrifice. And this is when Oshizu was chosen for the sacrifice, and she only agreed to this on the condition that one of her children would be made into a samurai. Oshizu was entombed under the pillars of the castle, with stones being placed on top of her as she was slowly being crushed to death. It is said that she accepted her fate stoically, knowing that her children would have a better future as a result. After her sacrifice, the walls of the castle remained standing, and the construction continued without further issues. However, the man responsible for the castle's construction, Shibata Katsutoya, did not follow through on his promise to make Oshizu's son a samurai. As a result, Oshizu's spirit returned to haunt the castle, causing the moat to overflow every spring in a phenomenon known as the Tears of Oshizu. To this day, the Meiuroka Castle is said to be haunted by the vengeful spirit of Oshizu. Some claim to have seen her ghost wandering the castle grounds or heard her haunting cries in the castle during some nights.